Okay, we ready? 9 o'clock. Yes? Welcome. Ready to rumble, or is that trademarked? Ready for town meeting? Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment afterwards? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, I just like to say, I'd just like to take a moment, a silent moment, to remember those Townshend residents that we lost this year. Some titans, some characters, and definitely all loved ones. Thank you. Please be seated. So, welcome to the 161st Townshend Town meeting, I think. Warning, for the Town of Townshend 2020 annual meeting, the legal voters of Townshend are hereby notified, that's better, and warned to meet at the Town Hall, Townshend, Vermont on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 at 9 a.m. to act on the following articles. If there's no objections, I will refrain from reading the entire warning to you. Seeing no objection, good morning and welcome to the Townshend Town meeting. I hope the past year was good to you and I'm glad you can make it today. A special welcome to those who have never attended, that are new to Townshend and have never attended a town meeting. My name is David Lebo. It's my pleasure to serve you as the town moderator for the past year and up until Article 1. The role of the moderator is to explain procedural questions and please ask any clarifying questions before a vote. You have the right to challenge any decision I make if you feel my ruling is improper. Robert's Rules is the basic order of rules for this meeting. Voters should check in at the entrance and have a ribbon. This ribbon must be worn to vote. It identifies you as a registered voter in town. Non-residents are not allowed to vote. They may speak from the floor if there's a 2/3 vote of approval. Please stand and state your name before speaking. Please speak loud and clear. We have a microphone that will be passed around. Please use it so we can hear you. All motions and remarks should be addressed to the moderator. There will be no discussion between residents. There should be no discussion between residents. Articles must be moved and seconded and restated by the moderator before discussion may begin. Articles can be amended and the amendments can be amended once. We'll get to that if we need to. Debate can be cut off with a 2/3 majority. However, calling the question when you do not have the floor will be ruled out of order. You may speak once per motion until all have had a chance to speak unless a direct question has been asked. You are only allowed to speak twice per article, kind of, unless the rules are suspended. There'll be no personal attacks, and I'll rule you out of order and ask the constable to remove you from the meeting if you are disruptive. During elections, I will only allow the person nominated to give a brief introduction. When voting by paper ballot, please come up through the center aisle and exit through the sides. If you need the ballot box brought to you, please ask and we'll bring it to you. Please turn off your cell phones and pagers. I think cell phones are starting to work here in Townshend. Leave your ribbons in the basket when you're done to save tax dollars. Moderator, please announce this. This meeting is being recorded by Brattleboro Community Television. You can watch it later on Comcast Channel 1085, Southern Vermont Cable Channel 10, and online at brattleboro.tv.org. For anyone speaking at the meeting, please stand, state your name, and speak directly into the microphone so viewers in the room and home can hear you. Thank you. Up front, we have the Select Board. Will Bissonnette, Frisco Mansfield, Steve Frisk, and Robert Wright. Is that everybody? Oh, and Kathy Hayes. Okay, and Kathy Hagee is not here today. And in the back, we have some justice of the peace. Representative Emily Long should be here around 10-ish. We would have to suspend the rules to allow her to speak, but just a warning that she will be here. Some information about paperwork in the back of the room. There is a broadband survey to get your feelings about broadband issues. Please fill out the survey, and if you can't do it here, you can do it online. If there are no other announcements or objections, I will move on to Article 1. Ready to go? Okay. Article 1. Yes, Article 1. To choose your moderator for the ensuing year. I will now entertain nominations.
I nominate Dave.
Any other nominations? If there are no objections and hearing no more nominations, I declare the nominations closed and instruct. Do I say that first? Brad? And instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for David Lebo for moderator. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? You guys have it. Thank you. See, I gotta do this a couple times when I get there. I only do it once a year. Okay, now, before we move on to Article 2, if there's no objection, if there is, that's fine, we'll take the vote. If there's no objection, we would like to change the order of the articles. What? No? Somebody say something? We would like to move Article, which one is it? I'm looking. 9. Article 9, which is law enforcement article, up to now. Because we have the law enforcement here and he has a lot of towns to go to, so we wanted to move that up so he can answer any questions before he has to leave. It requires a 2/3 vote if there's an objection. Is there any objection to it? Doing that? Okay. Seeing no objection, we're going to move to Article 9 to see if the town will vote to raise by taxation money for law enforcement services, and if so, how much? I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we engage law enforcement for $20,000 per year.
Is there
What we had last year.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved and let me get there. It's been moved and seconded. I guess the motion will be to raise by taxation $20,000 for law enforcement services. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Now we can discuss. Any discussion? Yes.
I'm hearing.
Wait, you gotta do this. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but.
Oh, that's all right.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Take it back.
Oh. Is this for the state police or for the sheriff's department?
Okay, the microphone's on. The question was, is this for state police or the county sheriff's department, right?
Correct.
That would be determined later. So what we're voting on now is just to decide if we want to engage law enforcement, and then the select board actually makes a decision as to which is chosen.
Okay, thank you. That's the answer.
Okay.
Elizabeth Martin, I'd like to know what the current budget is.
Right now it's 20,000, has been for the last several years.
You have a question? Wait, his microphone right there. There you go. Good, thank you.
I just wonder, is this mandated that we actually do have to have this and find it mandated by the state? Or is it because we do it in meetings, or what is the reason we're doing this? You gotta speak.
She asked what the reason we're doing this was mandated by the state.
I honestly don't know if it's mandated. We have in the past engaged for police protection, investigation, speeding enforcement, that kind of thing.
On page 15, just so you know, on page 15, I wrote it down, I don't know why, but on page 15, law enforcement, on page 15, it's about 2/3 of the way down the page. The past 2 years, we have budgeted, right, $20,000 for law enforcement. Yeah,
Who is providing that service for the past 2 years?
everybody hear that?
The state police,
State, not the sheriff.
correct.
So where does the $20,000 that was saved last year, where does that go to?
That's been paid to the state police on a, I think it's quarterly, it's paid as an hourly basis. And
Andy Snelling, I just want to point out that we also do collect a share of any traffic citation fines. Which amounted to a little under $8,000 last year, which we go to offset the amount we pay for law enforcement.
Glenn, you're electric.
I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, Glenn Beatty, I was just wondering, while the Sheriff Anderson is here, maybe he could explain to us exactly what he might give the town of Townsend for the said $20,000 and how any traffic fines, if that's what they're contracted to do, which is normally the case under my understanding.
Awesome.
Do you need to do a vote? Do you need to do a vote?
Another, well, yes, I guess, yes, you're right. The 2/3. So he's not a Townshend resident. Again, we'll do it by no objection. If there's no objection, we have to allow a non-resident to speak. 2/3, any objection? If not, we'll take the vote. Seeing no objection, your floor, sir.
Good morning. I don't think I'm new to this body, but I am new in this role. So I'm Mark Anderson. I'm the new Windham County Sheriff. I was appointed back in July. What can we do for you, I think is the question. That's a good question, and it's one that we leave to a negotiation with the select board. The sheriff's departments are enabled to provide services, I believe the statutory phrase is, in a manner that's conducive with their responsibilities. It's a broad brush. So, some towns, but let me back up and talk about what the state police do and what we do. By statutory enabling, the state police are the de facto law enforcement agency in the state of Vermont. Somebody breaks into your house, you're sleeping in your bed, you call 911, they're the responding agency. If they're at full staff, the Westminster Barracks provides about 6 troopers per shift. Their coverage area right now is all of Windham County, all of Windsor County, parts of Bennington County, and parts of Rutland County. So there's 6 troopers to do that. It's a lot of area. I don't offer this as an insult to the state police, but I'd like to mention it as fact. There was a trooper on Main Street of Brattleboro who was dispatched to a domestic in Cavendish. He told his dispatcher he's over an hour away. And they said, you're the closest one. So, what do the state police provide? They provide that catch-all service for everyone, but they provide it as they're able to, and they provide it as best as they can. The state police do a great job. They've serviced towns throughout Windham County and throughout the state for a variety of years, providing numerous forms of service. I'm not here to discredit them. What I offer is a stopgap between establishing your own police department and accepting what the state police can provide as they're able to provide it. State police are also going through a shortage of manpower. I talked to a trooper a few months ago. I believe that they're trying to hire 40 troopers in this current year. The Westminster Barracks has a shortage in personnel. I'm talking to many towns who are saying, we're just not seeing the coverage we used to. It's not a discredit to them. Law enforcement across the nation has been struggling with hiring. I'm fortunate enough that my full-time staff is full, and while I do need part-time help, my full-time staff is where my patrol staff generally comes from. So what can I provide? I can do anything from a very basic contract of traffic enforcement, which is what I do in Newfield Village, all the way up to full-service 911 emergency services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're able to investigate homicides, deaths, motor vehicle crashes, burglaries, and we've done that in Wyndham County. The question is, for me, what does the town of Townsend want? I can tell you what I think you need, but that's my opinion. I think that Vermont is critically underserved by policing. I think that in daily conversations, I talk to people who are truly numb to criminal activity. Talked to one resident in Wyndham County who was telling me about a theft of their property, and they didn't want to bother calling the police because they're too busy. I was like, you pay them to come deal with this. When you have to explain, like, yes, you being victimized is something that the police handle, there's a serious failure in the system. I can say that, but I'm not a taxpayer of Townsend. Born and raised here in Wyndham County. I told the governor before he appointed me that I wasn't smart enough to get out, but I truly love it here. The unique nature of finding ways to do things more cost efficient has always struck a chord with me. So in that regard, while I think that we're critically underserved in policing throughout the state, I also respect that taxes are high. This is not a cheap place to live. So what do you need? You need more. How much more? That's really a question for you. Now, the other question that I believe was asked was regarding tickets. I try not to be a revenue generator for the town when it comes to tickets. I do joke that we write the speed tax. You want to go 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, you'll pay the speed tax to do that. It's a speeding ticket. The way that speeding tickets in Vermont work, if the town adopts a local ordinance, there's a variety of statutes actually, speed, stop sign violations, one-way street violations, and many more, overweight truck limits. The town can collect a percentage of that fine amount. So if I write a ticket for going 15 miles an hour over the speed limit on, say, Route 30, which last I knew was an adopted road for the town of Townsend, there is a surcharge that goes to the state to operate the Judicial Bureau. There's a percentage that goes to the state, I believe that's about 20% that goes to the state to operate some of the special funds, the DUI Enforcement Fund, Victims Fund, things like that. And then the remainder, which is roughly 80%, goes to the town. So when you take all the fees out, $150 ticket, the town's gonna see roughly 50% of that, or $75. My agency doesn't see a nickel of it. There's no incentive for me from a financial sense to do that. The legislature provided that mechanism many years ago to offset the cost to towns for people traveling through your town at high rates of speed or blowing stop signs or whatever. I don't say to fund the town off of tickets because eventually one of two things happens. We solve the problem and then you're funding it out of your tax base and it's unexpected. Or the second thing, people become enraged because they're only writing for the purpose of money. It doesn't jive well with people. It doesn't work. So our reason for writing tickets, we want to stop motor vehicle fatalities and injuries on our roads. We don't want to get caught up in the bend down here, waiting for the bus with electrical cables laying across it to get cleared. We want to make sure that we're not seeing injuries. In fact, Wyndham County for nearly 15 years has been the most fatal county for motor vehicle accidents. The most fatal, more than Virginia County. And where we weren't the most, we were in the top 3. We host a number of state highways and a lot of traffic. We're the gateway to Vermont. So that's an issue. We've seen those fatalities occur here in Townsend, up in Jamaica, and in Newfoundland. We've also had burglaries. Anybody who's been burglarized knows that there's a serious violation of the sanctity of their home. It doesn't feel safe to go home. My office, when we've investigated burglaries, we've had a very successful rate. It takes time, but a very successful rate of finding the people doing it and having them go to jail. We've worked hard to try and establish relationships with the community. We do emergency planning with the school. In fact, we do it with all the schools because we believe that the safety of children is paramount in today's era. So, I've hit on a few things. I don't want to continue if there's other questions, but I think I answered most of your questions, if not all of them, and I'm happy to answer more. Questions? All right, there.
My name is Ken Hoffman. This $20,000, what does that equate to as far as number of hours? As you exceed those number of hours, say mid-season, will you still be covering the year?
So this is where it gets a little tricky. I do not claim to be an expert on things that are of the select board's wheelhouse. However, my understanding is that anything voted by article in town meeting, you cannot exceed. So if you raise $20,000, not to say that's a bad number, but if you raise $20,000 and Irene number 2 comes along, you will be restricted to $20,000. FEMA money can become available. If you're still restricted to that, you would have to convene a special town meeting. So in that regard, we do make note of that, not to say it's a bad thing to do. And usually articles for law enforcement services are brought up when there's questions whether we need it or not. That being said, you can have a special town meeting. The likelihood everything's going to come along again is probably not for another 90 years. So most of us aren't going to be worried about it. So the question was, what will $20,000 get you? My agency, we provide roughly 32 hours of service a month. Breaks down to just shy of 8 hours a week. We vary our schedule. We try to adapt to the town's needs. So I assume, just based on years past, that Townsend's issues had to do with weekend ski traffic, Friday evenings, all the way through Sunday afternoons. We would certainly consider that. There's also a lot of traffic that goes on. Sorry, I'm moving. A lot of traffic that comes in during school hours, so we also look to do that. We target times that the select board identifies and talk to the community members. We have 2 radar carts, which help us determine traffic flow. So we can use that data to say, we're going to target, say, Route 35 on Tuesdays at 7 because all of a sudden, for the last 2 weeks, we've been seeing drag racing up there, or whatever it may be. Did I answer your question, sir?
Well, not completely. I'm still concerned, you limit to a certain number of hours. When those hours are used up, we do not have any coverage from you. We have to rely on the state police. Our state police can be 50 miles away. We call you and you say, I'm sorry, your 20 hours are up. Will you respond?
So
You will not respond, that's what I'm getting at.
Sure.
You will not respond.
So the question is, will we respond if the 20 hours are up? The way that we design our contracts are on an average number of hours. So let's say that this month we spend 30 hours here. We'll start to wean that off in following months. If I have someone on vacation, well, I might say, instead of giving you the 20 hours this week, I'm going to give you 15 hours this week. My person's gone. If it's not affecting the town, it doesn't affect the town. When my people are here, they're here. When we're not here, the state police are here.
How does that contract impact emergencies?
We have a strong relationship with the state police, so when we're in town, they forward the calls right to our office. When we're not in town, we're the primary 911 response agency in this.
So would an emergency be referred to first to the state police
It depends on who the town establishes as its 911 police response, but yes.
Okay, so if you're the 911 primary responder, does that come off our contract?
It will. But I would also encourage, if you wanted the sheriff's department to be your primary responder, then $20,000 is not sufficient. We contract with 3 towns for a 40-hour-a-week position, and none of them have identified us as their 911 responder because, again, the relationship we have with the state police will make it work in a way that's affordable. And we do it so that we're not lessening access to emergency services.
Any other questions? Yes. Microphone.
Can you explain to us, number one, we do pay a county charge fee, which I believe partially pays for the sheriff's department. And can you tell us where we might find the county sheriff's budget and what the source of revenue is for the county sheriff's budget other than this $20,000?
This is a very fun and or confusing topic to discuss. So there are 3 sources of what I'm going to call revenue for the sheriff's department. We receive a state budget. The state budget pays for my salary. It pays for, well, I'm going to back up even one step further. There are 2 statutory obligations of each county sheriff. The first one is to transport prisoners from jail to court, or from court back to jail. The second is to serve civil papers. It can be divorce papers, it can be eviction papers, you fail to pay a credit card, all of those things issued out of our civil court. That's our statutory responsibility. That's all we're required to do in the state of Vermont. Then we are established, or we're able to engage in providing additional services under contract for the purposes of, going back to what I was saying before, whatever's within the general responsibilities that make sense to us. It's that broad brush. So while we're not required to provide any policing whatsoever, we've all obtained law enforcement credentials. We're certified deputies and undergo all the same statewide training. We maintain our regular training certifications each year. We go to specialized training. We've gone to the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Training Center down in Townshend, Georgia, where they provide advanced training, no less for free, to our agency. The contracts are a choice of whoever we contract with. That can be a municipal government. That can be a construction company. So the places where we're actually most visible are the places we're actually not required to be, except under contract. One of the places I'm actually have been in talks with the state of Vermont about is actually contracting to provide the court security from Brattleboro and moving courts. We're not obligated to provide that, but it makes sense with what we do. The third source of funding is then the county taxes. So in line with this very screwy system called county government in Vermont, the county tax pays for my building, the courthouse, my bookkeeper, my administrative assistant who helps me keep track of all our civil papers, and that's pretty much it. There's a limitation from the Vermont Supreme Court going back to, I believe it was the 60s, it's still v. Lamoille, in which the sheriff is not able to provide law enforcement services as part of the county tax. So under the county, I'm not able to provide you law enforcement services. They're not able to fund it. And that's why we don't provide it as part of the county service.
Where's your budget online? Where can you review?
So the county budget or my budget?
Your budget.
Which budget?
All of them.
If you want, I'll give you my card and I can send it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you. Yes. That's okay.
I can speak loudly.
But basically, he doesn't like that.
Oh.
So basically what you're saying is that you're kind of a stopgap.
as your backup force, because the state police, as you say, are in effect. And I know that personally, from calling them and realizing that they just can't get to where you need them to get, when you need them to get there. So, to me, it just makes sense to have a backup, especially when the state police are already being, they're basically doing what they're being paid to do. So, anyway, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. So seeing no other questions for Sheriff, we have a motion in front of us to see if the town will vote to raise, thank you, sir, $20,000 by taxation, money for law enforcement services. Any further discussion about the motion? Ready for the question? Okay. A yes vote, I'm going to read one more time. A yes vote will pass $20,000 raised by taxation for law enforcement services. A no vote will defeat that motion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe you guys have it. You guys do have it. Motion passes. Can you guys hear me? That far away? Yeah. Okay. Moving along. Not here. Okay. Going back to Article 2. Article 2, to act upon the July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019 Independent Auditor's Report. That's on page 7 through 10, and the full auditor's report is available for inspection at the town clerk's office. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Move to what? Approve it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Approve it.
Move to approve it. Okay. Second? Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the auditor's report, July 1st, 2018 to June 30th. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Question?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Fourth paragraph in the report. It says that the report on financial statements is adverse because of the omission of the government-wide financial statements and the fire department fund. So my question is, that paragraph to me is negative. So I would like an explanation, basically why, if the auditors are considering the report adverse.
Okay.
So you're asking us to.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, good question, very good question. So there is an adverse comment in the auditor's report. It is there, absolutely. We discussed this at pre-town meeting as well, and there is an answer. Who's got it? So, good question, thank you.
I think I have it. What it came down to was there was a shifting of monies between the fire department and the general fund that, as far as I know, has been resolved by both the town accounting and the fire department. So that was resolved and addressed before the auditor's report came out.
Good. Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, there's a motion before us to approve the independent auditor's report July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. A yes vote approves the auditor's report, a no vote defeats it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Okay. Article 3. Emily? No. Article 3, to see what salaries the town will vote to pay its various officials for the ensuing year. Town clerk, $37,318 a year. Town treasurer, $30,000 a year. Select board chair, $1,200 a year. 4 members, $1,000 a year. Town clerk assistants and casual labor, $14.75 per hour. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who was that? Who? Name? Sorry. Second? So, discussion? Yes, sir. Loud. You don't have a microphone. Just yell.
Thank you, Chief. On the one that is the most significant is the increase of the treasurer's salary, which was $2,324, I believe, last year, to $30,000. In addition, we had paid for a bookkeeper approximately $14,500. So we're going from just under $17,000 to $30,000. Could you give an explanation of the reason for doing that, which I believe does go back to combining the treasurer and bookkeeper's position in one.
It does actually reflect a rolling of the treasurer and bookkeeper's roles back together as they used to be. And the reason for the increase above that is to make it a job that is attractive for someone to want to have. So when we elect a new treasurer, we are hoping to entice someone who has experience and talent for this to do that job.
Any other questions? Discussion? Seeing none? There's a motion before us to see what salaries the town will vote to pay its various officials. Town clerk, $37,318. Town treasurer, $30,000. Town board, select board, one chair, $1,200. Four members, $1,000. And town clerk assistant calculator, $1,475. A yes vote will pass that motion. A no vote will defeat that motion. All those, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Okay. Moving on to Article 4, elections. Emily's still not here? Okay. I'm not going to read, if there's no objection, I'm not going to read all the whole entire article. We will start with the town clerk. However, please have your ribbons visible when you do come up front, up through the middle, out through the sides. If you need the ballot box, don't hesitate to ask. Just so you know, a second is not needed for nominations. Okay, so just a nomination is enough. If you do it, it's fine. No personal attacks. And if there's no objection, I'll allow a nominee, if they choose, to give a brief introduction about themselves, and there'll be no questions or others speaking to the nominee. And then normally I say, could all the elected officials please come up after lunch? But I don't know about after the meeting, right? Because we don't know how long it's going to be without the school portion. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. I will now entertain nominations for town clerk, one-year term, currently held by Anita Bean.
I nominated Anita Bean.
Anita Bean has been nominated. Any other nominations? If there's no objections and hearing no other nominations, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Anita Bean for town clerk. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Congratulations. I will now entertain nominations for town treasurer, one-year term, currently held by Joe Dano.
I nominate Elaine Hill.
Elaine Hill has been nominated. Any other nominations? They work!
That's who's calling in for nothing.
They work, that's right. Is that a nomination? That's good, I like it. Wow, I haven't heard that. Wow. Okay, so Elaine Hill's been nominated for treasurer. Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations and hearing no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Elaine Hill for town treasurer. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Elaine has been elected. Select board. Not here yet? Do we need to? Wait, let's, okay. But we're in the middle of an article. See, you guys ask me questions, I have no idea what to do, huh? But it's all about your will. That's the whole point. As long as we get across what you guys want, I'm doing my job. So here's the conundrum dilemma. We've already voted on the law enforcement issue, but the state police have arrived. Okay? Do we want to hear from the state police and just ask some questions? Yes? I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Okay. If there's no, I can take a 2/3 vote to suspend the rules again and hold up the article. Or any objection to having the state police come up and you guys can grill him a little bit? Okay. He is not a Townshend resident. Any objection to having him speak? Seeing no objection? Sergeant Buckley, please come forward. Here's a microphone.
I'll stand right there.
Come up here. So we're discussing. We moved it up because the sheriff came early. He was told to be here at 10. But the sheriff needed to leave, so we obliged the sheriff, but not the state police, which is worse. Right. This is Sergeant Buckley.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Buckley. I've been Sergeant with the Vermont State Police and have been with the Vermont State Police since November of 1994. I've actively been patrolling this area since around 2005. I was asked to come today to talk about the town contract that we have and the results that we've had. And instead of going fiscal year, what I did was I did the last 12 months because it's closest to the time that we're here. At the conclusion of that, be happy to take any questions from anyone who has a question about what we do while we're here on the contract. Okay, so let me start off with total number of cases that were handled in the town of Townsend from February 1st, 2019 until the last day of February of this year. The state police investigated a total of 346 incidents in the town of Townsend. They ranged from crashes to suspicious alarms, sex offense, fraud. There were numerous DUIs, welfare checks, VIN inspections, juvenile problems, a fair number of 911 hangups, kind of the gamut. Of those 346 cases, 21 of those investigations resulted in arrests. And just to give you an idea of the type of arrests that have occurred, there was 1 aggravated assault, 3 simple assaults, 1 burglary, force, 1 larceny, all other. There was an arson, a vandalism, a weapons law violation, which was essentially a student had what is considered a dangerous weapon at Leland and Gray. There were 3 driving under the influence, 1 condition of release, 1 arrest on a warrant, 6 folks driving with a suspended license. Part of the reason I think that I've been asked to come is because we have a town contract. During that 12-month period of time, there were a total of 202.75 hours of additional patrols that were conducted within the town. The patrols have varied. Sometimes it's targeted speed enforcement, say in the village out in West Townsend. Some of it may be on Grafton Road, some of it may be here on Route 30, or other areas where we receive calls from citizens in town requesting special patrols for speed enforcement. There were a total of 57 speeding tickets, 7 for civil suspension license, and 48 miscellaneous traffic violations for a total of 112, totaling fines of $13,979. There were 174 written warnings issued during that time. And while on the town contract, there were 4 assists, 4 citizen assists, 2 bins, 3 suspicious complaints, 4 motor vehicle complaints. Now, let me explain what those are. So what the state police does while we're on the town contract is if you're here on the contract and a complaint comes in, the expectation is that you're going to investigate it. If that investigation spills over beyond the time that they work, the state police do not backbill. So if we have an incident that requires a court calling as a result of that criminal investigation or any type of investigation that extends beyond the window of that contract, the state does not bill the town back for those hours, the state needs those hours. I work this detail. I know we've received numerous complaints about out in West Townsend. For those of you who live out there, you've probably seen me out there with either laser or stationary radar. Bill, we have made some impact, but there's more work to be done. Does anybody have any questions about the town contract and the violations and anything like that?
The contract for the town, the 20,000, how much of that is your troopers covering town on overtime hours?
It's entirely extra patrols.
Okay, so I think it's important to note that the $20,000 contract that we have is being eaten up quicker by the state police because they are all on overtime dollars.
The other thing is, the state police is the primary law enforcement for Townsend. I understand you have a small contract with the sheriff's office as well. If there is an incident that occurs in Townsend, the state police is the primary law enforcement agency that responds and investigates those matters. Were there any other questions? Yes, sir.
I noticed early there, the local police, when they stop a speeder, half of the fine goes back to the town.
Yes.
And you talked about your speeding tickets. Do we collect half of that fee as well?
Correct. So any of the violations that we issue on Route 30, the town of Townsend has adopted the state speed zone, so those tickets are issued under a local ordinance, and yes, that money does come back to the town.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Before your arrival, we heard from the sheriff as well, who made mention that you have 6 state troopers available per shift for, I believe it was Windham, Windsor, part of Bennington, and part of Rutland County. And that led to a slow response. You mentioned one incident where there was a domestic dispute. It took over an hour for the state policeman to arrive. Would you speak to those matters, please?
Certainly. With consolidation and the closing of the Brattleboro and Rockingham barracks, and us all moving under one roof, it has posed some problems. I have not heard specifically of that incident that we had a response time delay. Normally our shift ranges from 4 to 6 troopers and a supervisor. And yes, we do patrol a large area, but I don't feel that there have been any changes in the level of service that we've provided to the town of Townsend. We do have troopers that travel through here frequently. For those of you who don't know what our area is, so we essentially do cover Windham County, we cover the towns of Halifax and Guilford, and then we travel all the way up through here, Townsend, Jamaica, Dummerston, Putney, when the sheriffs are not on their part-time contract in Putney, and then we travel all the way up through Wardsboro, down into Whitingham, and then we travel up into Windham County, Londonderry, and then up through. So it is a large area. As one of the shift supervisors, what we do is we decipher patrol areas depending on the number of troopers that are working, and so troopers are assigned to the southern part of the patrol area or considered part of the west or part of the north. And so traditionally, if there's a trooper that's in the south and there's an incident, say on the interstate in Guilford, the trooper would be in the west, say Londonderry, or Jamaica would be the one who would respond down towards Townsend. As a whole, I have not heard that many complaints. About response times, traditionally Whitingham is one of the furthest outlying towns, so we do occasionally have some lengthy response times there. I'm not familiar about that incident that the sheriff spoke to, but I will reach out to him and make sure that I find the details on that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you, in the case of real emergencies, if you don't have a trooper nearby, within a certain distance, you refer that sometimes to the local sheriff?
Well, just so you're aware, the sheriffs, they only have patrols in town when they're being paid. They don't have patrols that are just running through the town. So, in an incident, say there was an incident at the school, and we had an incident that required numerous law enforcement officers to respond. So we would solicit assistance from Fish and Game. There are the wardens that live close by. Department of Motor Vehicles occasionally has officers that are out this way. I mean, everybody responds if there's an incident that requires that. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
So you roughly serve tickets for 14,000 through your patrolling, and then the cost overruns that weren't billed to the town. Is there any way to put a rough number to that so people kind of get a feel for your investigating cases ran over your contracted time, so the state police you eat it, so to speak? Is there a way you could put a value to those hours so the townspeople understand that maybe you ate $20,000 or $10,000, and then the revenue generated from the tickets also is kicked back to the town to help compensate that $20,000?
So here's part of the thing. We don't track the hours that we go beyond the town contract that's spent investigating an incident. But for example, say someone was here in town, and this actually is a case that I had. I was in Townshend Town contract, and a gentleman crashed out in West Townsend into a guardrail, and he was impaired. And in that situation, it was a DUI arrest, which resulted in numerous hours of processing. The town was not billed for all of those hours of the processing. Processings can range from 2.5 to 5 to 6 hours, depending on the level of cooperation and whether they refuse or provide a sample of their breath, or we have to go for blood. And so, if I was here for 2 hours on the contract, however much of that is used towards that, and then I go over and that gets billed to the state. And then if there was a court call-in, so in a situation where someone is arrested, there's a court date that follows up later on down the road, whether it be for a suppression hearing or a trial, that those hours that are associated with that trial or any preparation for that trial, meeting with the state's attorney, none of those hours are billed to the Townshend Town contract. Yes?
I always find this confusing. So, but wouldn't you be called to something like that anyway, whether you were under contract with the town or not?
Correct, we would respond.
So the question was, would you respond if there was no contract? That was if you didn't hear.
Yes, absolutely. We would have someone respond, but on the day that happened, I happened to be like 1 minute from the location of the crash, and we responded and found the gentleman impaired. But we would normally respond. In that situation, if there wasn't a trooper on duty, the sheriffs aren't going to send a deputy to that. The state police are going to respond to that incident.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sergeant Buckley.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, one more, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Can you tell me what the hourly wage is for the state troopers versus the sheriff's department?
I don't know what the sheriff's department hourly wage is. The hourly rate for contract, and this includes wear and tear on the vehicle for dispatchers and trooper pay, is $75.69. One of the things that I would like to preface in saying that all the state troopers that are responding out to these incidents are full-time certified law enforcement officers. All of them have a ton of training. They've all come through the full-time academy, and all of them are level 3 certified. A lot of the deputy sheriffs that are on patrol in these towns are level 1 or level 2 certified. They haven't been to the full police academy. They don't have the support of having a supervisor respond to the scene if they get into something over their head. We have a chain of command, and yes, the sheriffs have a chain of command, but if it's something that happens in an off-hours situation, there isn't someone that they can call. And so all I can say to you is, yes, there is a difference between the hourly rate. For those of you who are aware, there are bidding processes for a variety of things. You can bid and take the low bid and you get a certain service. And then you can take a middle bid and get a certain level of service, and it may be different from the level of service that you receive for the lower bid. And then you receive the higher bid, and there's a certain level of service that goes with each one of those bids. And all I can tell you is that in the time that I'm here and that the other troopers are here, you're getting qualified people to investigate your incidents. And I'm not saying that the sheriffs aren't qualified. I'm just saying that there are varying levels of experience in people. I've been a trooper for 25 years. I have a lot of experience. Some of the part-timers that they have there have only been to the part-time law enforcement school and may have 1 to 3 years of experience. So you make the decision about who you would want to investigate your matter.
I just wanted to make a brief comment. With the other towns, and we call state police, and sometimes they aren't there in 15 minutes or half an hour. However, the other day, we were using the fax machine, and we had a malfunction that we were aware of. And it was less than 5 minutes later when Sergeant Buckley showed up at the front door saying that they got a report of an interrupted 911 call, and they came to see that we were all right. So we're most grateful, and we're glad that they're out there, and they can respond in a timely fashion.
One more? One more?
Peter Grady, West Townsend, and again, it's not a question, it's just a comment. Again, I would like to commend the state police. I work at Townsend Elementary School, and Trooper Jensen has been coming in and building a relationship with our children. This last week, he came and took community luncheon, and the kids are so excited to have him there, and I think it's great that the state police are coming in and building a relationship with our children and our engaged with them. I think it makes a big difference.
I appreciate you saying that. You stole my thunder from my summary. But thank you. One of the things that I wanted to highlight in summary, I'm happy to take any other questions. There are a lot of services that the state police provide other than the services that we provide during the contract. One of those is our school safety visits that we do, which are at the Townshend Elementary. We actually do this to all of our schools which are contained within our patrol area. We encourage our troopers to get out into the school and develop relationships with these kids. Back when the Brookline School was open, I used to go up there with my police canine named Scooby, and I'd read stories to the third graders. I've come into the school at Leland and Gray, participated in their school safety drills. Trooper Jensen's participated there. One of my schools happened to be the Newbrook School, and I go in there and I have lunch with the kids, and they come running out, and they're excited to see us. And what we're trying to do in this school safety, we're trying to highlight the importance of the school safety drills and not make it something that is scary for the kids. And so by having us go into the schools and us have FaceTime with them in a non-threatening environment, sitting down, having lunch with them, in the incident that we have to have a school safety drill, or God forbid we have an incident that requires a lockdown and a large state police response, that they're used to it and they've practiced. In Newbrook, the kids see me pull up and they look out the window and they're like, are we having lunch or are we having a lockdown drill? And so it's kind of become this running joke with them. And I'm like, no, I'm just here to visit today. And they're like, oh, shucks. And so we are working to build those relationships with the school so that in the incident something happens, we have FaceTime with people so that we walk in, it's not a stranger walking in off the street. It's like, okay, who is that guy? That's one thing that we're doing. We are actively too, when we do have an incident that occurs in town, so say there is a burglary or there is some sort of other property crime that's occurring, we do send a variety of troopers into an area to saturate the area to try to develop suspects, to try to develop leads. I don't know if you've seen a couple of times where we've had numerous troopers scattered throughout town. We're trying to gather information to solve crimes that are occurring either in this town or in other towns because people have to pass through. That's one of the other tools that we do. Additionally, I pop in at the fire station, hey, how can we work better? What can we do to try to improve our relationships? And so it goes beyond just showing up in town and writing a few speeding tickets. There are a few people in this room that I have stopped, and I'm confident have been stopped by other people in town. It's not all about writing tickets. Yeah, we could come into town and we could give everybody a ticket, but everybody doesn't deserve a ticket all the time. And so, what's that? Well, there certainly are times when people do deserve tickets, but I think we're doing a good job striking that balance between enforcement and giving people warnings and educating them on things that need to change. If there are no other, yes, sir.
Just one more question, maybe not in the mic. Paul Davis, I live on Route 35. On the topic of gathering information, on the topic of gathering information, have you found in your experience that the radar machines that flash you speed limits and then give you the speed limits of that road, are they effective or not? Because 35, I found the traffic has increased, and it seems that most people, or many people, are violating the speed limit.
What section of the road do you live in, sir?
Just past Valaqueros.
Okay, so in the third.
In the third, right.
Okay. I can tell you that I spend a fair amount of time patrolling, namely because I've been into the hospital and I know that a lot of people walk on that stretch of the roadway. So when I am here, I do dedicate time on that stretch of the roadway. I personally have seen a decrease. There may be a specific time of the day where you're seeing an increase, and I encourage you to speak to me when I'm heading out, or anyone in this room can call at any time and request an additional patrol and provide a time frame of day when you'd like us to be there, and we make every effort to accommodate that.
But I guess part of the question was about those machines. Do you find that they're effective in reducing?
I've heard both sides of it. Some people who travel through the area and just need that reminder, oh yeah, that's right, it's 30 here or it's 35. It's very effective for those, but for the person who's traveling through town and is not from here and isn't familiar with it, who doesn't travel through frequently, you may not have as much impact with them as the person who drives the road every day and has a lot of things going on in their mind as they're heading to work or headed home and loses focus. Was there one more question? Yes, ma'am.
Last one.
Well, I live in Minnesota, and we live in a part of Route 35 that's got a long, straight stretch. And that seems to be a place where a lot of people think it's really fun to go to race or to go really fast. And it happens more in the summer than in the winter for obvious reasons. But it's been an ongoing problem for years. I mean, I've seen people racing side by side. I've seen people going so fast that it's like a blur. And it's not down by the hospital where I think the flashing signs at the hospital actually have been effective.
Okay.
But it just seems to be an ongoing problem year after year after year.
What number is your residence name?
1022.
And yours, sir?
575.
Is it okay that I park in your driveway?
You can park in the corner and you have to use the cars.
Seriously, there are a variety of devices that we can use for calculating speed. Stationary radar requires us to be kind of facing in a direction that the car is traveling. Moving radar, the car has to either be coming or going away from us, but the laser, I can park my car and hop out and just shoot.
Well, Janus Technology is next door, and I've seen people park there, and it's not walking anymore.
All right, we'll be happy to do that. I've marked those addresses down. Don't be surprised if you see me here shortly. All right, yours as well. Okay. All right. Thank you all for your time. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your time.
I certainly go slower on that stretcher 35 now that he's there. I know he's there, so it does make you slow down. Okay, we're in the middle of elections. Emily Long is going to show up at 10 o'clock. She's not here yet, okay? So, we're moving along. Select Board. We're in the middle of elections. Select Board. We have 3 positions on the Select Board up for re-election or election. A 3-year term, a 1-year term, and a 1-year term. We'll take the 3-year term first. That's held by Kathy Hagee. I will now entertain nominations for a 3-year term on the Select Board. Nomination of Stephen Frisk. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast 1 ballot for Stephen Frisk for a 3-year term on the Select Board. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Congratulations. I'll now entertain nominations for a 1-year term on the Select Board, which was held by Steve Frisk. So don't nominate him. Yes, sir.
Crystal Mansfield.
Crystal Mansfield been nominated. Any other nominations for a 1-year term? Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast 1 ballot for Crystal Mansfield for a 1-year term on the Select Board. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. Congratulations. I will now entertain another nomination for a 1-year Select Board term that was held by Crystal Mansfield. Don't nominate her. Any other nominations? Yes, ma'am.
Rob Wright.
Rob Wright. I don't think he's coming off. He's not. That's okay. He's already on and he's stuck.
Herb Stoll.
Herb Stoll. You up for it? Okay. Glutton for punishment. Any other nominations for a 1-year term? Yes.
Shiloh Tedrow.
I'm sorry.
Shiloh Tedrow.
Shiloh. Tedlow?
Tedrow.
Tedrow. Got it. Thank you for spelling that. Is Shiloh on the checklist? Kurt?
I'm checking.
Thank you.
No, we have Brian.
We have a Brian, but not a Shiloh. Sorry. Get on the checklist. You live here? Register. Any other nominations? We got Irv so far. Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast 1 ballot for Irv Stowell for a 1-year term on the Select Board. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. That is your 17th year or something.
Welcome back.
That's right, welcome back. It's like the 17th back and forth. So, okay, moving on. We're done with the Select Board. Listers. I will now entertain nominations for a 3-year term on the Listers. It's currently held by Eugene Cook.
I nominate Eugene Cook.
Wife nominating the husband. So, any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there's no objections, I instruct the clerk to cast 1 ballot. I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast 1 ballot for Eugene Cook for a 3-year term on the Listers. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Delinquent tax collector. Anybody notice the error in the town report? She did. Huh?
It wasn't there initially.
So, delinquent tax collector, a 1-year term. I'll entertain nominations. Right now, according to the book, it says Becky Nystrom, but she's no longer Nystrom. It's Becky Riley. So, nominations? I got Becky Riley back here, I got Becky Riley out there, yes. Any other nominations? Nominations, we have a nomination for Becky Riley, nobody else? Hearing no other nominations, and if there's no objection, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Becky Riley for the delinquent tax collector for 1-year term. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Becky's in. Moving along. West River Modified Education District. Isn't there a unified in there? West River Modified? When's the unified? West River Unified Modified? West River Modified Unified Education. There's in there somewhere. What? Union District. Whatever. The new Education District Director. I entertain motions for a 3-year term that I believe is currently held by Al Clausen. I will now entertain nominations. Do you need an explanation about what's going on upstairs and downstairs? Yeah, okay, I figured. It took me a while to figure this out too. So, there are several different, two different positions, I guess, on the West River Modified, whatever it is. There's an at-large position that all the towns will vote on. And then there's actually town positions. Right now, we're voting on our town position. Downstairs, there's an election for the at-large position. No, there's not. That's March 25th, there's an election for the at-large position. Okay, does that make sense? So there's just two different things. The at-large can come from any town and be put on the board, and then we also have our own two. Joe Brinrick holds one, and Al Clausen holds the other for our town. Then at the at-large position on March 26th, you can also vote. There is a Townshend resident running, I'll just say that, and you could vote there or not, okay? So we're voting for a 3-year position from the town to go on this muddy board that I don't know what it means, okay? I will entertain does that make sense? Better? Okay, I'll now entertain nominations for that 3-year position. Al Clausen? Does anybody, Al's not here, is he? No. Does anybody talk to Al? Yeah. You have? He's okay? He's okay. Okay. If not, that's okay. We can vote him in if he says no. But still, it's better to have it. So Al Clausen's been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Al Clausen for a 3-year term on the West River Modified District Director. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Moving on. First Constable. I will entertain nominations for a 1-year term as First Constable, currently held by Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Warren Beatty for a 1-year term as First Constable. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Second Constable 1-year term, currently held by Michael Cutts. I will entertain nominations. Got Mike Cutts. I know he's not here. I'll see him this weekend. He'll have to do it. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there's no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Michael Cutts for a 1-year term as Second Constable. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Michael, you're back. I'll now entertain nominations for Town Grand Juror 1-year term. It's currently held by Margaret Bills. Margaret Bills has been nominated. Tough job, if you'll do it? Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there are no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Margaret Bills for a 1-year term as Town Grand Juror. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Agent, 1-year term, previously held by Carol Mounts. I'll entertain nominations. If there are no nominations, the select board appoints, which is fine. Just want to point that out. Okay? No nominations? No, I can't. Carol, can you explain what you doing? Not much really. I mean, the clerk says not much really. Do you have to be a lawyer? No, you don't have to be a lawyer. Yes, sir.
I believe the town agent is the person to whom papers are served if there's any kind of illegal action involved in the town.
Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. It could be. Good point.
I'm pretty sure don't.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of jobs where it's roles,
things like that.
There's jobs that I don't know what they do. So, okay.
If you decide, if you want to sue the town,
right,
that's who you
makes sense. Makes
give the
sense.
paper to.
Who wants to get the subpoena? I assume you just pass it on to them, but anyway. If there's no nominations, the select board can appoint somebody. Okay, seeing no nominations, we will move along. Okay. That's an open seat. Okay, we'll move along to library trustees. I have a note here. Library trustees, I will entertain nominations before I take a nomination for 1 5-year term as a library trustee for Margaret Bills. But I have a note here about a second seat. What were we talking about? I forgot. Somebody's.
Yeah, Margaret Gold is no longer.
So we have to vote on 2, but it's not Warren. Oh, so you guys are going to appoint? Right.
You did appoint?
Okay, please explain.
Kathy Renee was appointed to take Margaret's place.
Right. But that ends today, so.
It does.
Right? No, that's still 2022. Right, okay. So.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought, right, they talked a bit about it at the town meeting, but I think that's the right answer. That Kathy was appointed
To finish out that.
to finish out that, so, okay, forget my note. We now have a, one, yes.
I want to verify, because I believe that appointment only goes to the next town meeting. It could be done at a special town meeting or another.
We're getting conflicting reports here. You got it? I don't think so over here. That's what was brought up.
I studied that in high school, so I really want to take that one.
Okay, so because it wasn't warned, discussion to me? Because if you have some information, no?
I don't have it with me, but I believe you have to appoint them at
Well, because it's not warned.
It's carried over to the next town meeting, whenever the town is warned.
Okay, right. The problem is that it's not warned. And because it's not warned, they're either going to appoint somebody for the next year again, or we'll have a special town meeting to appoint a library director. Okay?
Just verify.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's what, you are correct. Okay, so we have 1 3-year seat on the library trustee, and then another one that's going to have to be dealt with later. I'll now entertain, that's held by Margaret Bills. I'll entertain a nomination for that 1 5-year term. Margaret Bills?
I decline, but I nominate Jean McIntyre.
Jean? Is he here? Who's Jean?
She's not here, but she said she would love you.
I just spoke to you. Okay. Jean McIntyre has been nominated. Margaret Bills declined. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there's no objections, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the town clerk to cast 1 ballot for Jean McIntyre for a 5-year term as a library trustee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And then the select board will have to deal with that other 1-year term remaining. Okay, cemetery commissioner. 1 5-year term available, currently held by Ricky Snow.
Paul Newton.
Paul Newton?
Ricky Snow has declined.
Oh, Paul Newman. Paul, Pete, Paul. Townsend resident, right? Okay, any other nominations?
Paul Law.
Oh, Paul Law. Sorry, I can't hear either. I know. I'm really bad with names. I'm great with faces, but when somebody seconds and she goes, who was it? I'm always like, I know him, but I have no idea who. Paula Newton. I know who Paula Newton is. Okay, any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and if there's no objection, I declare the nominations closed and instruct the clerk to cast one ballot for Paula Newton as for a 5-year term on the Cemetery Commission. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Congratulations, Paula. Is that it for elections? Yeah. Wow. In 25. Okay, Emily Long. She's not here. See, the other towns are keeping her late. Okay, moving on, Article 5. To see if the town will authorize the selectmen to set a tax rate sufficient to cover all monies raised for municipal entities for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and to borrow money in anticipation of taxes. Who's that, Irv? See again, names, faces. Okay. No. Discussion? Seeing no discussion? It's been moved and seconded to what you see there for Article 5. I don't have to read it again. A yes vote passes. Authorizes the select board to set the tax rate. A no vote defeats that. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You guys have it. You guys have it. You guys do have it. Article 6. To see if the town will authorize the property tax collector to receive its real property taxes quarterly, August 28, 2020, November 24, 2020, February 26, 2021, and May 28, 2021. Monthly interest will be charged at the rate of 0.5% or fraction thereof. Interest of 1% or fraction thereof plus penalties will commence on May 30th, 2021. Motion? So got Will and Charlie. See, I got those names. Discussion? Just remember, it's not Thursday, November, it's Tuesday because it's on Thanksgiving. Okay, no discussion? Hearing no discussion? There's a motion in front of us to see if the town will authorize its property tax collector to receive its real property taxes quarterly. Blah, blah, blah. A yes vote passes the motion, a no vote defeats it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Article 7. To see if the town, you ready to start this one? Emily is not here. To see if the town will vote to appropriate, oh, she just walked in. If there's no objection, I'd like to suspend the rules and have Emily Long come up and speak. Is there any objection? If there is, we vote, but. Okay, hearing no objection, Ms. Long, and there's no objection her being non-resident and speaking. Hearing no objection, please step right forward.
Wow, we want to get a great moment.
Thank you. If somebody wants to ask questions, yeah, hand out that.
Thank you, thank you. Boy, that was quick. Usually I end up waiting in the back and listening. So for those of you who don't know me, Representative Emily Long, I live in Newfane. And if you hold on 1 second, I'm taking my coat off. Your town hall is so much warmer than Newfane's. Okay. So, it's been a crazy, crazy busy year up in the legislature, especially the last 2 weeks. We have passed a Global Warming Solutions Act bill in the House, which I'm particularly pleased about because we got 105 votes, which is, as most of you have heard recently, a veto-proof majority, which we don't often have in our legislation. I think this is a piece of legislation that's going to get some strong support in the Senate. We'll see. They're working on their own climate change legislation, but this is our take in the House on what we can do to start the first steps to make sure that we're focused and ready to act for climate change that we're all dealing with all the time. We also had a override this past week. We had, for the first time since 2009, and only the 11th time in the history of Vermont, we overrode a veto from the governor on minimum wage. And we feel really confident that this is the right thing for Vermonters, our hardworking Vermonters, families who really need a little boost. This is going to be a 2-year, not a $15 minimum wage increase, which you heard me talk about in years past, but this is a 2-year boost in minimum wage that will actually, after the 2 years, go back to the legislation that's in place today, which is increasing once every year by CPI. So this will take us to, I'm gonna forget the number for next year, but in the final year, it takes us to $11.75 in 2021 and $12.55 in 2022. So happy about that. We were all really pleased that we were able to override that both in the House and the Senate. We think it's the right thing to do for Vermonters. We also passed a tax and regulate for cannabis piece of legislation this week. It was a Senate bill. We had been working on it for quite some time. We made some changes to it. I'm not totally confident that it's going to just be accepted by the Senate, so I think it'll probably go to a committee of conference. But it did pass fairly strongly in the House. We made some changes that I think the Senate is gonna take issue with. One of them, which was a local options tax that was in the bill. We removed it and made communities, towns who have cannabis either retail or growing facilities in their community get the revenue from a licensing fee. So there are 5 different licensing fees. So for anybody who applies for a license to either grow or test or sell in retail marijuana, cannabis, then they would have to pay a licensing fee. So that's a little help for communities who are hosting those. That may end up going back to local options tax if the Senate isn't happy with what we've done with it. But I think we've made some good improvements, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. You all will remember that we actually legalized marijuana and allowed home grow. So this bill is really just to set up a system to regulate what is already legal marijuana, which is really an important thing, because if you are ever going to make a dent in the black market, one of the ways to do that is to make sure that people who are purchasing cannabis, they know the potency. Right now they don't. They don't know how much pesticide or how many things like fentanyl are mixed in with cannabis products that they get on the black market. So this is a regulating system. We have a doctor who, who's a member of the House of Representatives, who stood up on the floor during debate and said, I voted against legalization, but I am here to say that this is a really important bill that we need to pass, because now that we've legalized, we need to regulate. And if we're ever gonna have money for prevention, we need to tax it. So that's what we're doing. We're focusing money on prevention. And the last piece that we passed in this past 2 weeks, which was just on Friday, was Act 250 reforms. We have made some changes to Act 250. For those of you who pay attention to Act 250, it's been in place for 50 years, needed to have a reform, needed some changes. So we spent the last year through legislation traveling the state, a commission traveled the state, got feedback from our communities all over the state to tell us what they did and didn't like about Act 250. And we have made some reforms. It's not perfect. The legislation was really complicated. Changes were being made right up until the last day, but we also felt that it was super important that we get it over to the Senate so they could do their work on it, and they told us they will take it up. I don't know if there'll be changes this year, but what we're trying to do is relax some of the regulations around Act 250 and development in our downtowns. And we added an amendment for village centers as well to relax and change some of the regulations around our trail systems in the state, and to make sure that we are still preserving our environment and our communities and our culture in the state. So take a look at that legislation. It's probably not going to stay what it is today, because we just passed it on Friday. We'll see what the Senate does with it. But anyway, that's the main thrust of what we've been doing. The big bills, we have others coming. Money cross, we've got our bill policy crossover comes the Friday after town meeting break week. So, and then bills for the budget, money bills, are the week after that. And then it's just, you won't see anything new coming hardly after that. So anyway, happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Perfect.
You can try hollering. I might hear you. I can repeat it.
Yeah, I'll quantify the phone.
Got it?
Emily, I know you've been on this program for a number of years, dealing with the pilot program as well as Townshend Town. I know, I was hoping you would bring that up immediately because that's the lifeblood of not only this town, the West River Valley. We depend on that dramatically because we're losing business all the town play areas. We have no more swimming, we have no more fishing, no more boating. It's so vital that we get something done down there. But every year we bring this up, and apparently nothing much is being done at all. They allowed us $5,600 a year because we forfeited over 1,000 acres of land so they can put that dam in there to protect the people downstream. But in return, what it amounts to, that, from my understanding, that $5,600 is barely enough to cover the cost of plowing the road over the dam. So we're losing, we're not gaining anything. In fact, and then we're also losing the use of the dam and the lake that we have there. So I'm curious to know, I know we had representatives down here before, look into this issue. They come down and then they leave. When they go back to the State House, what do they do with that knowledge? Do they address the whole assembly? Do they explain to them how dire the conditions are down here, especially Townshend? But again, like I say, it's not only Townshend, it's all the towns in here to Brattleboro. Have they been talking about it? Have they been coming up with any ideas, any solutions? I realize that the Army Corps of Engineers, their main goal is for flood control. But the way I think about this is, I've been here 50 years. That Townshend Dam was a vital part of this town. All my kids went there for Red Cross swimming lessons, boating, swimming. It was a real gem, but it's not a real gem anymore. Even though those people, I don't know why they keep it so neat, because there's nothing much more to keep neat there. But something definitely has to be done. So they talk us about, well, the reason why it's basically flood control. You guys are on your own. If you want to do something, you have to take it upon yourself to figure out a way of doing it. So the last thing I want to say is that if he's so concerned, the leader of Army Corps of Engineers, about condition dome as a flood control factor, protecting the people, not here, but all the way down to Massachusetts and Connecticut as well. He doesn't seem to realize, I think about this a lot, and I was trying to figure out why, after 50 years of really good service out of that Townshend Dam, why suddenly in 2008, everything totally falls apart? Well, what's been going on over the years? We had many storms prior to 2011, but those storms, the damage done to the river was not evident. The silt was coming down all those years. 1973, we had a bigger storm, a great amount of water that came down the West Tower than we did in Irene. But what that did in 74 and years after that, all that silt was coming down. And then just prior of June of 2011, it looked like a perfect place to have all your pleasures that you want. But immediately after that storm, everything still looked all right. And that was surprising because I didn't see any silt. Well, the silt was just below that surface. As soon as Irene came along, all that silt came down and really blocked the flow of water.
Yep.
And every year, right at this very moment, silt is building up. It's constantly building up. It's replacing the water capacity to hold that basin dramatically. For every yard of silt that comes down, it's a yard of water we cannot hold back to protect the people downstream. So I think it should be, if somehow we can convey to the people downstream or the Corps of Engineers how important it is to dredge that. You have to dredge everything. It's the only way you can do it. You have to bring it back to 1961 again.
Yep, so I told him that. I thank you, first of all. This is a huge issue. I have been working on it for a number of years. Ever since I've been elected to the legislature, I have had communications. It's not, you mentioned two things, the pilot and all that. Yes, there is plenty of property in the town of the town of Townsend, where they get payment in lieu of taxes because of the types of, Townsend State Forest, all that. That is an issue for sure. But the specific to the Townshend Dam, that is Army Corps of Engineers. That is not us in the House or the Senate. That's not our state. It is our congressional delegation. I have been working really closely with Peter Welch's office, as often as I can. He's been pretty good about it. We lost he lost his person who was the point person on that, so it had to change recently. I had a meeting at the Army Corps of Engineers last fall. I know I let the select board know about it, and I don't remember if anybody from the select board was there or not. I can't remember, but I did make sure that we invited select board members and planning commission members so that they could hear the same things I was hearing from them. There is a definite change in recognition coming from the Army Corps of Engineers in that meeting at least. And that was in the fall. I have not followed up recently with it, where they are recognizing that this is a serious issue finally. That I don't think that they didn't know it, but they really are looking at they've got to do something. So they were applying for a grant in the fall to do a study an engineering study to find out exactly how much silt there really is in there and what the cost would be to take it all out. It's probably going to be a heck of a lot. It is going to be a real lot of money, millions of dollars, I think, to clean it out. But they're doing that. They're applying for the grant to get the study to make sure that we know what we're dealing with, first of all. I grew up here. I swam in Townshend Dam all the time. I thought it was the most wonderful thing. We used to leave school at Leland and Gray and go over there and swim. That's not possible anymore. And the dredging, it's temporary. It's a small piece and it's temporary. And when I sat in there listening to them, and Welch's office was asking really tough questions. But one of the things, I was talking to a member of our communities who used to work there a long time ago, and that person explained to me the design of the dam. I thought the Townshend Dam, was a different design than Ball Mountain. So it isn't, actually. And I found out it isn't, and here's why. Because I asked the Army Corps of Engineers this. Because the silt should be building up if they're the same design, silt should be building up at Ball Mountain too. There is no question that silt has, on those storms, 73, those different storms over the years, silt has been building up. There's no question it's been building up in Townshend Dam. But Irene was different. Irene washed the shores of our rivers, our banks of our rivers, to the point where growth isn't coming back. And so it continues. Every time we have a big storm, it continues to wash more. That's why it's gotten worse. These are the things that were explained to me. Irene really shifted things immensely. So that's why it's gotten a lot worse and much more rapidly. The difference in design between the two dams is only simply a bunker, a concrete bunker that was placed across the flood control gates so that they don't need to control them going up and down, and they don't need to deal with what happens in, I used to serve on a school board with, a state school board with a member who was a diver. He spent most of his time diving to flood control dams all over New England to fix flood control gates. Most of the work that needs to be done on them is underground. That's a lot of expense, and they're not always reliable, is what I was told. They put a concrete bunker up there, so the water comes off the top of that bunker in the Townshend Dam, and it comes off through the floodgates at the bottom in the Ball Mountain Dam. But the design is the same except for this added bunker. That's what I wasn't told that by the Army Corps of Engineers. I asked that question because I had been told that by a member of our public, and they acknowledged that that's the truth. I asked if that could be changed, and they didn't say yes, they didn't say no, but they did say that they were going to look at that, and I am following up. I will continue to follow up with Welch's office to see whether they're pursuing it at all. They didn't seem aware of the difference in the two dams, and how this concrete bunker was put in there. So, I don't think it's a simple answer, but it's one that they seem to be aware of, and I'm going to continue. And I think if all of you wrote to Peter Welch's office, you should do it to the senators as well. They should hear from all of us. But Peter Welch's office has been really taking the lead and has been very responsive about this. So write to them, tell them. They read that. This is really important. And as I explained to the Army Corps of Engineers, I read what it said back then. This was for recreation. We were supposed to be able to see, a lot of tourism coming here. There was going to be a big benefit having this dam put in here. The last thing I'll say about it is the flood control dam is the flood control dams throughout the 4 states. It's New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. And it's basically around the flood control. It's controlled by the Connecticut River Flood Control Commission. We used to have a person from our area on there, the former Speaker of the House, Tim O'Connor. When Tim O'Connor passed away, we lost a direct link. Senator Ballin and I had been working with Tim. He was bringing it to the forefront. We went down to Greenfield at one of their Connecticut River meetings, so did Townsend officials. Bob DeServio came. We showed photos. We did all that. We got a lot of attention paid to it. But there was very little incentive for them to use the limited dollars they have, the Flood Control Commission, to put it into here, because this dam is still doing what it was designed to do. And I was told by the Army Corps of Engineers that it is still continuing to do that, which is to control floods. And everybody downstream from us really needs us to control floods, including us. So it didn't really feel like the effective way to do it. So I would continue to say, talk to Welch's office. I will do the same. Send emails and call Leahy and Sanders' offices. They have great staff, and push from that side, because that's what we're going to need.
Ellen, thank you, Dr. Servo. What you said is true, but I'd like to ask you to talk to Chris Campany and get the report from the Wyndham Regional Commission on the Corps of Engineer silt releases. That's key, because the Corps of Engineers, on 2 separate occasions, and probably a third, accidentally released huge volumes of silt from the Ball Mountain Dam. What that did was it got into the West River, and when you have a heavy rain event or an Irene, it comes down and it fills up Townsend. So, having talked to the Corps of Engineers people, they ignore the fact that they are the ones who are responsible for all of that silt in Townsend. It needs to be pointed out, the Wyndham Regional Commission did this study It exists, but the Corps of Engineers never acknowledges that. And lastly, the current head of the Corps of Engineers happens to be a local boy. Grew up in Springfield, and the employee I think you were talking about who had once worked at the Townshend Dam, she claims he used to swim there as a kid.
So that is news to me. I was not aware about that thing with Bob Mountain, so thank you, Bob, for sharing that. And I will talk to Chris Campany. I was just talking to him a few minutes ago down in Newfane. I'll find out about that study and pursue that with Welch's office. It's really important. I was unaware. And please, if anybody else knows things that I don't know, you need to tell me.
Thank you, Emily. Like you, I grew up in the dam was being built, actually. You know, I'm not a hydrologist, but I have a lot of friends who are hydrologists. And dams trap silt. That's what they do across the country. Look at Egypt, what's happening there. And the Corps of Engineers, when they built the dam, should have been doing studies on the siltation of dams, because it's been known for centuries what dams do in trapping silt. Let me also say, I know you've got the delegation, Peter Welch and others working on it. Patrick Leahy is in a perfect position because he's ranking on the budget committee. In my experience in Washington, if you want to get an agency attention, you talk about their budget. That's where you get their attention. And attention.
Very true, Roger. Thank you. I think that's great. I will contact Lady's office as well. You are absolutely right. That makes a difference. Talk to somebody who's on the budget committee. So listen to what Roger's telling you, because you should definitely be getting a hold of them too. It helps to hear from you. It helps for you to put your personal story into this, what it was like for you and what your expectations were and how it's impacted your community. That matters. So tell them. And I'll continue to do it as well. Thank you.
Just as an aside, that is true. I've contacted the senators and Welch, and they are very responsive. When they hear from, that really perks their ears up, because most people don't. So when somebody does, they do listen. Any other over here? No. Right here? We gotta go around here.
This is, I had no knowledge of this at all, but you said something about one of the reasons that there was so much silt is because nothing would grow on the edges of the rivers anymore because of the silt there. Is that
what I was told was that every storm that we have where the water is raised, it washes the stream banks. Little brooks, larger brooks, rivers, everything. The West River gets its banks washed. What was exceptional about Irene was the flood came very fast and very sudden and very high and did significant damage to the riverbanks, which is still continuing to create challenges. I asked them about fixing the riverbanks. Is there anything we can do to fix the riverbanks? They're really, you'd have to bring in fill and then plant and hope for no flood during all that. There's a whole bunch of challenges around being able to do that. I do think that it eases over time, but I'm not an engineer. I don't know. This is what I was told, but it did make a difference during Irene. It was much worse during Irene, and if everybody remembers, it got a lot worse. What I'm hearing is that maybe it was worse above Battle Mountain Dam as well, and maybe those releases increased the challenge. It sounds like it did, and I'll find out about that. And just going back to Welch's office, I really have been working with Welch's office because they have specifically made it a priority to deal with this. And I'm happy to do that, but I just can't say enough that if I could get all 3 offices here to Townshend Dam, that would be great. And you could help with that, so let's try.
I guess my curiosity would be if anything could grow in the silt that we could encourage.
Right. I mean, the silt they take off is in great big piles, and they actually sell it, I think, because it's very valuable, the silt. There's big piles that they keep on the state forest property, and it's very good dirt. That's what I understand. So, but I don't think you can just put it back in the riverbanks. It doesn't work that way. Hey there, how are you doing?
Early install.
Is it my understanding, or do I understand it wrong, that the state of Vermont is taxing that electrical facility for the Department of Education and the town doesn't get anything out of it?
That I don't have any knowledge of that. I don't believe that's true unless you're, I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
not only that,
the only money that goes, I don't think it's related to the education fund unless there's, sales tax goes into there in the education fund. Now, we don't have a general fund transfer to the education fund, so I don't think it'd be linked to education, but I don't know whether they're taxing in this different way. I'd have to check into that for you.
I was gonna say over 1,000 acres, we get $5,600.
Yeah, I know.
Back you can find land that you can buy for that and not pay more taxes.
And due to that, Sylvan, until they open the old channel back up and let the water come down by the tower and settle back in there, they're gonna keep getting that Sylvan because it comes right down and goes right in by the bathing beaches.
Sure.
So I'm hearing a lot of individual concern here, but has the town of Townsend ever made an official declaration of concern concerning this at any time in the past?
I'm gonna say that I have been working myself with members of the Town of Townsend Select Board and Planning Commission. I don't know, you'd have to ask locally what steps they have taken on their own, but I do know that the Town of Townsend has, over many years, taken this very seriously. So I'll let you guys answer.
I don't know if anything has been, Steve thinks there was something a few years ago, but maybe it's time to.
Well, there was a petition several years ago prior to the dredging that was done several years back. There was a petition before that.
Yeah, there've been 2 dredgings actually. And part of the reason why we got the second dredging is because of Welch's office working with me and bringing people in and saying how important this was, and Timmy O'Connor, who said, we gotta take this seriously, and they did put some money in that year to help out.
Hi, Heather. We live downstream over there.
Years ago, storms and whatnot was a lifeline to the dam that we could see all the levels at the, in the pond, and how much water is coming through the dam, the height of the gates and all that. Since the storm, or actually since they put the generators in, they've taken that site down and eliminated Townsend Dam's serial number. It's off the books and out in the state of Vermont under the Army Corps' webpage. I don't know why, but nobody's up at the dam.
Have you asked them?
I have, and they've never gotten back to me.
So, ask them again and copy me. On an email. I would love an answer to that question. I know this has changed recently. When were the power generators put in there? I guess 3 years.
About 5 years.
5? Time flies. And they have them up at, I believe they have one up at Ball Mountain too.
Yes, they did.
But I have no idea, but that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah,
And I'd love an answer
If
to
you
that.
look at the Army Corps' site for Vermont,
All the dams are listed there, but not Townsend. And you put their serial number in that used to be, it's out of service.
So if you ask that question again and you copy me, then I'll know what you asked and I should get a response. And sometimes it helps to copy the senators and Peter Welch too. Yeah, do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How many other hands are there? Okay.
Hi, Emily.
How are you?
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
So I just wanted to ask you about S54. So I went to the governor's office last week and it felt kind of like the max amount of lobbyists there that are pushing this bill in order to make something that seems extremely oppressive for people who want to grow their own cannabis, like we're backpedaling. And this bill really feels like it's meant for big businesses to take, a bigger, easier cut away from people that want to grow their own cannabis. So I'm just wondering how you feel about this particular bill. It's 90 pages and a lot feels like incarceration and problems and backpedaling. And I just wonder if maybe this is, getting pushed to the governor and if he's going to reconsider rewriting it or what the deal is, because it feels like less access for individuals and more access for people that own the dispensaries, which are only a few individuals. So I just wonder if you have any more to say about the entities.
So First of all, I can't say what the governor will and will not do on this. I mean, his basic concern around moving forward with tax and regulated cannabis was roadside testing, and he wanted saliva in there. And there was actually an amendment on the floor on Friday or Thursday, whichever day, to include roadside saliva testing that failed by 117 votes. So I think the message was sent pretty strongly that because there is no accurate test to show whether someone's impaired or not, we should not be doing saliva testing for all sorts of reasons. So there is saliva testing still in here in this legislation. And I don't want to go down too far down that, but the way we're relying on road safety is through A-rides and who are people who, we're trying to see if we can get all police officers, both town, state, town police officers trained in A-ride, which is, I can't remember what the acronym means, but it's to recognize when people are driving while impaired on anything, any drug, including alcohol. Then we rely on further trained DREs, which are drug recognition, I forget what he is. And they're more highly trained to recognize people who are driving impaired. Saliva testing can come into play later if there is a warrant. The DRE says, yeah, there's a problem, we're gonna take you in, you can't do it roadside, you gotta be taken in, and you can do blood or saliva, and it has to be done by warrant. So we're trying to protect folks. The lobbying at the very end, and I got emails maybe from some of you, was more about the agricultural side of it and the concerns about bumping out small farmers. I went to Carolyn Partridge that day and I said, I'm getting a lot of these emails. She said, so am I. Carolyn Partridge is chair of the Ag Committee, and she wrote a pretty good, if anybody is interested in knowing a little bit more, and if you haven't read it, I would encourage you to. In yesterday's Reformer, she had her column in there speaking specifically about S54. She made it very clear to me that while the bill in her mind wasn't perfect, it is set up to make sure that we are protecting small growers, prioritizing Vermont growers in the legislation. It's not something that the legislation actually dictates, but we're saying it's a priority of the commission that we're setting up. It needs to be a priority of the commission. So if you go and read the legislation, you'll see where the focus is. Keeping corporations out, it's been a challenge. Anyone who's tax and regulated, it's been a challenge keeping corporations out. The way we've addressed it is saying that you are only allowed to own one license. So you can own there's 5 licenses in there, and I don't have in the top of my head every one of the licenses, but if you want to be a testing facility, if you want to be a grow, if you want to be a retail, those are all separate licenses. You're only allowed to own one license of each. So somebody could own 5, but you can't get 2 retail licenses. There is a priority, the medical dispensaries did get first connection, but the bill again says we lost one of them, the medical dispensaries. Ever since we legalized, the medical dispensaries have really been struggling. People are growing their own and not buying. So one closed, I believe, and the others are, feeling the pain a little bit. And so I think there's only 3 or 4 left in the state of medical dispensaries. So, I think we've done the best we could to try to control that. I don't know as we'll keep out every bit of corporate, but I think we tried to tailor this bill to make it Vermont. And if you have specific feedback on that you want to see change, please let us know. The bill has still got to go to committee of conference. I don't make that decision, but my strong belief is that the Senate's not going to accept this bill as it is today. So the next step on this bill will be a committee of conference, and that means conferees from both the House and the Senate will be discussing the proposal and trying to come to a compromise. So if you have specific language that you want to see in there, let me know, or just look to see who's on there and email who's on the committee of conference, both in the House and the Senate, to give feedback, because there's still time. to do that. But we really did try to make it work for farmers and work for Vermont. Well, thank you.
Well, it's been about half an hour.
Really?
And just remember, our elected officials are available whenever you want. They work for you. You want to talk to her?
Year round.
Year round. Talk to her. I'm just saying, there's a lot of questions here, but we have business to do. Any other pressing, yeah, no?
Can I just,
Yeah, what?
Can I just say one more thing? Townsend is the only, I just want you to know that in Marlboro and Newfane, I hold, this sort of relates to David was just saying, I hold office hours in both Marlboro and Newfane once a month on a Saturday. I do it year round. I don't do it in Townsend because I actually haven't been invited to do it here. And I have a hard time finding a spot where I can actually sit. Somebody wants me to sit. I do it in the Moore Free Library in Newfane, and you're all welcome to come there because they invite everybody. You're welcome to come there on the third Saturday from 11 to 12:30. I'm in Marlboro at their community center. They invited me to do that. I do that on the second Saturday. And again, I do that year round. I sit in there for 10 to 12 in their community center. If you folks want me to be up here once a month on a Saturday, happy to do it. It really is great to have face-to-face contact. And I was just dying to give me a spot, I hope.
Well, yes, of course. Did you expect the waiting setting? Was that loud enough?
No, it's not loud enough, but I was trying to end the,
It's not gonna work if you're not gonna give me a spot.
I said I was trying to do something wrong. I'm sorry. Then Ken's gonna go after you.
I'll be brief on this one. I know he's gonna ask.
Not right now. We're tired.
Yeah.
You're asking for the waiting study.
Exactly.
And the waiting study, I don't want to go into too much detail because clearly we were already cut off, but the waiting study was part of Act 173. A waiting study came out in December basically saying our education funding system, including the weights, is not working appropriately for all of our communities, especially our small rural communities. We want to make sure that our education funding system works well. Right now, very briefly, and anybody wants to talk to me about it, I'm happy to talk to you at length about it. But right now, that work is starting in the Senate. The Senate's holding a hearing on March 11th from 4 to 6. I don't know whether you're going up or whether anyone's going up for testimony on that. We're trying to figure out how to move it forward. It's not just a matter of taking the weights that were recommended in this study and just applying them. It isn't going to be as simple as doing that, and the Senate is finding out about that as they're taking testimony. We took some testimony in the House on this, but it is important that you stay focused on this and we start thinking about how our education funding system is or is not working for our communities. It is becoming very, very challenging. We see our tax rates, our property taxes go up, and schools are cutting back all the time. And Al and I sit on the same school board, West River District, together, and it is a huge challenge. This is not about money coming into your town, though. This is about lowering tax rates, and we need to make sure that there is a way to hold us accountable to, if we're going to change the weighting, that we actually are applying that change in tax rate to improve the education of our children, because that's the key to this, making sure our kids get what they need in our public education system. So, anyway. Get a hold of me.
You want last one.
Last one. I just want to re-emphasize the importance of stopping the flow of aggregate flowing down the river to the dam. I remember back in 1987. 1987 was an extremely frightening time in our lives anyway. We lived right down the river from here, right at the basin. In 1987, we had so much water that's going over the spillway. It was, I remember, and I also remember that the National Guard come knocking at our door, told us go down to the school, evacuate, because they weren't sure about the dam. But I'm really trying to emphasize here the importance of we have to stop the buildup of that. The fill that's coming down that river, because it's going to continue building up. As it builds up, it means that much less water will be able to hold back.
Yep,
so there will be a point will be very critical, and we'll get a big storm. We will not be able to hold the water back, and not only me living right down the river, but so many other people over the Brattleboro is going to suffer, as well as the people down in Connecticut and Massachusetts.
That's exactly the focus of the Army Corps of Engineers, and if there's any challenge around that, that's where we'll get their attention, so right to them, right to our congressman. Alrighty, thank you so much, I really appreciate your time. And go ahead and take it over.
When you say Al, when you say waiting study, waiting, W-A-I-T, waiting.
It's waiting, so
Okay,
sorry.
sorry. We were just doing that for the minutes. Thank you. Thank you for coming, thank you for your time, thank you for your questions. Contact your elected officials and tell them what you want. Not only vote, contact them. And that was very interesting. I never saw town meeting from down there. A cup of coffee and everything. Okay, ready to move on? Where are we? We're on Article 8. No, 7. Sorry, glasses. And Roman numerals. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $552,047 to pay for the running expenses and liabilities of the town, of which $325,741 is to be raised by taxes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appropriate $552,047 to pay for the running expenses and liabilities of the town, of which $325,741 will be raised in taxes. Page 12-ish, 13 to 17 generally. I saw those numbers on page 12, I think, and then the budget is 13 to 17. Discussion. Herb, wait, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, on page 22 on the reserve funds.
Page 22 reserve fund, yes, sir.
They've taken, there's money gone out of the reserve fund, like the fog line, the reappraisal, and the lister's education, but it doesn't show anywhere in this book where it went to.
So these numbers that you were looking at are from last year. So they're 6/30/19, right? The fog line, it was my understanding that got rolled into something else several years ago, but was remained as an item in the reserve funds. I don't know why. As far as the others, I can't speak to the listers. I don't know how that fund works.
They should be, if they take it out of here, it should say wherever the fund they were into from reserve. It doesn't. I mean, you don't know that.
You will next year.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Talking about the running expenses of the town. More questions? I'm going to kind of go this way. Anybody over here right now? I can come back. Questions?
What did Herb just say?
Irv was commenting about the reserve funds and where the money is going, and it's not listed in the book. Things along.
That's not going to be explained to us?
Well, it was. The select board explained it.
It was from 2019, correct?
Yes, and that at least the fog line I know was rolled in several years ago to another fund. I don't know where. It's possible Elaine is our bookkeeper. Maybe she could speak to this.
Okay, on the appraisal piece, I get a typographical error.
Wait. Yeah, we're going to actually repeat.
Let's get a microphone so we can hear each other.
Here, come here and run it. Come here and run it. Come here and run the microphone for us.
Okay, on the reappraisal piece, I did have graphical error. Instead of 113, it should be 131, 84603. No funds were spent. So graphical error, sorry. And I'm feeling that at this point. Stoneheart Bridge, we're working on that to put the money back into the account. There was some issue about the specific Stoneheart Bridge that we paid $2,300. So we're working on that. And next year, in 2020, those numbers will go back to where we are. Okay? So this is 2019. Can't do anything in 2019. We've gone through the audit. Again, the reappraisal was a typographical error. It should be 131, 46, 03. Okay?
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion? Hearing no other discussion? It's been moved and seconded to appropriate $552,047 to pay for the running expenses and liabilities of the town, of which $325,741 is to be raised by taxes. You ready for the question? All those in favor, a yes vote will pass this motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe you guys have it. You guys do have it. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $720,220 for the running expenses and liabilities of maintaining the town's roads, of which $407,220 is to be raised in taxes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Page 21, 18 to 20 in general. Questions, discussion, motion on the floor. Yes, sir. Thank you for running. Appreciate it.
Yes, I want to ask on the page 18 on the retreatment. We've gone from 25,000 to 100,000. Do you have a specific project in mind?
Yes,
for
I do.
retreatment?
Yes, I do. Last year was the library parking lot.
This year will be a section of Route 35.
Okay. And then under all special projects, there's an additional 34,000. Can you enlighten us as to what that special project is?
$11,000 is our grant match for Bridge 43. $5,000 was our grant match for our Better Roads program. $5,000 is our grant match for our grant from Wyndham Regional. $6,000 is for the purchase of culverts. And $7,000 is for the purchase of ditch stone. $7,000 for the purchase of ditch stone.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, L.S. Townsend. I have a question. I obviously say that we had a surplus of $200,000. And was just curious, I understand we like to reduce our taxes every year. But in a year that we gotta try to tight budgets, would it be wise to take some more of that and put it in reserve fund or use it in special projects? Because I understand that we gotta do the better roads and we gotta meet a target date. And obviously, Steve, you know where all those listed projects are. And if it would be wiser as a community to take some of that money and do some of those projects this year, in that budget year, or do the engineerings for projects. Obviously, when I was on the board 5 or 6 years ago, there's still some projects out there that have not even been touched or looked at that were going to be costing us hundreds of thousands, like the Deer Ridge Road culvert that I see every day. I drive over it. That's going to need to be replaced hopefully soon. But I know it's probably not on this year's project. Just asking if it would be wiser to put a few dollars towards a reserve fund.
So the reason for the surplus this year is there was, the way the accounting was handled after Irene with the FEMA money kept being pulled out by the highway, reimbursed to the general, and then when the money came in, it was being applied to the highway. So there still exists some monies to be applied to the upcoming year and probably the year after, as we try to work back to zero on that. So there is money that is available to do some of these special projects. We just have not yet allocated it.
Further discussion? Seeing, yep, at the end, yeah.
Just a quick question. Under the tractor Kubota, you have $5,000. Is that brand new?
Under the tractor Kubota, you have $5,000. Is that new? Is that what you said? A new tractor? Okay, that was the question.
So we purchased a new Kubota tractor a year or so ago to do the sidewalks with the snow blower. It did not come with a cab. So this money, there's $4,500 in the Kubota budget for a cab. It's an aftermarket cab, it's from Curtis. They were not available last year because it was a new model tractor and the Kubota cab was too expensive. So this is a cab that comes with a windshield wiper or the froster, and it'll take Jeremy out of the elements when he's operating the snowboard.
Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, there's a motion before us to see if the town will vote to appropriate $720,220 for the running expenses and liabilities of maintaining the town's roads, of which $407,220 is to be raised by taxes. A yes vote will pass the motion. A no vote will defeat the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it, and the motion passes. We've already completed Article 9, so we'll move on to Article 10. To see if the town will vote to raise $50,000 by taxation to be held in the reserve account for the repair of the Stone Arch Bridge on Back Wyndham Road, contingent upon the successful award of grant funds. I'll entertain a motion. Who's that, Charlie? Second. Okay. Discussion, page 22. Page 22, discussion. Stone Arch Bridge, Back Wyndham Road.
Is there any updates on the grants?
Any updates on
Well, no, it just says contingent to the grants awarded.
So, think about your money now.
Just an update on the grants? Is there any?
There is a meeting I'm having with Megan after town meeting. She's going to be meeting with all the local towns, talking about the small structure grants. We will be reapplying for 2 grants this year. One is for Bridge 43, and one is for the Stone Arch Bridge, which is Bridge 34. So we will have that meeting in the next 2 weeks, and we will both apply. We will apply for both of those bridges at that time.
Where is Bridge 43 is the question.
It is on West Hill. We did replace 42. It's one closer to Dam Road. I believe the mailbox by that bridge is Johnson.
Further questions? Discussion? Yes, sir. Microphone right behind you.
I just want to clarify that we actually have 88,000 still sitting in the reserve fund for the Stone Arch Bridge. I mean, tell me show here, because this is as of 2019, and that was something we voted last year.
We did raise the 88,000 last year for that bridge. Charlie's request was that we bring to the meeting today an article to raise 167 to get us up to the full amount. We thought we would go with the 50,000, waiting for this potential grant approval, and we wouldn't have to raise 167,000 today to get the full funds to rebuild that bridge.
Further discussion? Seeing no other discussion, there's a motion before us to see if the town will vote to raise $50,000 by taxation to be held in a reserve account for the repair of the Stone Arch Bridge on Back Wyndham Road contingent upon successful award of grant funds. A yes vote passes the motion, a no vote defeats the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise $54,050 by taxation for the running expenses and liabilities of the library. I'll entertain motion. I'll entertain, motion.
So moved.
Christine, discussion. Read your books. Seeing no discussion, there's a motion before us to see if the town will raise $54,050 by taxation for running expenses and liabilities of the library. A yes vote will pass the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, so the reading is unamended. Article 12. To see if the town will vote to raise $10,000 by taxation to be placed in the capital expenditure fund, fire department reserve towards a future pumper. Say that 10 times fast. Herb. Second. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, it's been moved and seconded to see if the town will raise $10,000 by taxation to be placed in the capital expenditure fund, fire department reserve toward a future pumper. A yes vote will pass the motion. A no vote will defeat the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. See if the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Article 13. To see if the town will vote to raise $1,750 by taxation for the old cemetery fund. Charlie? Steve? It's been moved and seconded to see if the town will vote to raise $1,750 for taxation for old cemetery fund. Discussion. The obvious joke. People are dying to get yes.
I'd just like to take the time.
Wait, Charlie, behind you.
I'd like to take the time to recognize Rick Snow for his service as cemetery commissioner for the past, I don't know, these 5 years, maybe 10. I'm not sure. I didn't look in the town report. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing, hearing no discussion, it's been moved and seconded to raise $1,750 for the old cemetery fund. A yes vote will pass the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Article 14. To see if the town will vote to raise $16,780 by taxation for the support of social services as recommended by the screening committee. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who said second? Who said something up there, Christine? Okay, well. Page 3233, just so you know. That's where the screening of the social services is. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, seeing no hands, it's been moved and seconded that the town will vote to raise $16,780 by taxation for support of social services. A yes vote passes the motion, a no vote defeats the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Should I slow down? Article 15. To see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire land by gift or purchase from municipal forests to promote reforestation, water conservation, and good forestry practices. Motion?
So moved.
Well, Christine. Moved and seconded. I'm not going to repeat it right now. I'll repeat it in a second. Discussion? Nope. Looks good. It's been moved and seconded to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire land by gift or purchase for municipal forest to promote reforestation, water conservation, and good forestry practices. A yes vote passes the motion, a no vote defeats the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to set the first Tuesday in March 2021 as the date for the 2021 Townshend annual meeting.
So moved.
Okay? Move to second it to see you next year, same bat channel, same bat time. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oh, sorry, I didn't say discussion. Is there any discussion? Anybody want to move it? Sorry. You do?
I just wanted to
I
ask
just broke the rules,
the
I'm sorry.
voters here today if there would be consideration to shift the day of town meeting to possibly another day that's not a work day for most people. I think the demographic here is, myself included, aging a smidgen. And it might be nice to have a Saturday morning meeting as an option. I'm not sure if that's, I've only lived here for 16 years, so maybe that's been visited in the past, but just wanted to have people think about it.
Further discussion? Not crickets. I hear you.
Is that an amendment?
Can we, I'm not the lawyer here. Where's our town? We have a lot, yes.
Elected offices.
Elected
offices have to be on town meeting day.
The elected, okay, so election of officers have to be on town meeting day. So we would have to have an election, not necessarily from here, we would have to do a joint ballot. It would change everything. That's the conundrum with moving town meeting day. But it's not like it's undoable. I mean, something you can try to warn for next year, that would be smarter and you can look into it, but something.
I do know that, I think it's Vernon or Guilford. Sorry.
There is a town, I was just talking to someone the other day, they do 2 evenings. So they do the Monday evening to do articles of business, and then they hold elections on the Tuesday, which is town meeting day, in the evening. So they break it up. So that's something we could look at, in, like Warren said, to warn for next year. But just something for everyone to think about.
There's not been an amendment. We've actually voted it in, but there hasn't been an amendment. But other business, when we get to other business, I mean, if you wanted to pipe up and just give an opinion of what you thought about moving town meeting might be a good idea, just so the select board has a feeling of what the people in town that show up want to do. Okay? Any other discussion about the meeting date? Okay, well, we'll take a second vote even though the first vote already happened. There's a motion on the floor to see if the town will vote to set the first Tuesday in March 2021 as the date of the 2021 Town of Townshend annual meeting. A yes vote sets it for March 2nd, 2021. A no vote, we never hold town meeting again. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I believe the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. This is a record breaker. I've been doing it for, I think, 13 years or so. What, other business? No, there's other business. Oh, wait, actually that takes precedent. Is that an official request? But we're not done with the, warning. Yeah, you have to at least announce the non-binding. I don't know if we can do that. A move to adjournment, though, is a privileged motion, so you would have to take that into account right now. Can we do it? I know, we still have the last article. That's why I'm in a conundrum right now. Do people want to adjourn? No. Okay, thank you. Wait, who wants to adjourn? Who wants to adjourn? Anybody? Just one? Okay, well, whatever. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so at least we know and everybody feels good about me not. Okay. So is this a non-binding? Okay, hang on. Let's go to Article 17 to transact any other non-binding business to properly become before the meeting. I have some issues here. I'll start over here and go around the room for any non-binding business. When something's brought up, if you want to discuss it, that's fine too. Yes, we'll start right there. Wait.
It's not.
Sorry, right here.
I'm Marilyn Bradley, I'm the board of Townshend Public Library. And this year, we lost 3 wonderful long-term trustees, 3 incredible women who've given more than 30 years in service to our library. I'd like you to please join me in recognizing Maggie Bills, Marge Holt, and Ann Albee for all of this. Thank you.
Who's the third person?
Ann Albee, Marshall, and Maggie Bills.
Okay. Keep going. Going around. Non-binding business. Come around. If you remember something later, it's okay. Any other non-binding business? Yes, ma'am. Non-binding business. Okay.
Simple question. There are 2 papers on the back table asking for a survey, or you fill out a form or something.
Broadband?
Broadband and 211. When we fill them out, where do we put them?
That's a good question, I thought about that. We don't have a box up here, but.
David. What? Oh, the box in the back, where you go. Kurt's on top of it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'll keep it short.
That's okay. No.
So I just want to thank the select board. I know you've had a really tough, thankless job. And I really, appreciate Irv for stepping up, even though you're already retired. And I just wanted to bring up that, that this is going to happen more and more, where we have openings and fewer people that are willing to step up. And I can't talk because I can never do it. It's too many numbers for me. But it would be really wonderful if some of the young people in the community would be willing to maybe sacrifice some of their time and step up to help out with the running of the town. And I think everyone here would appreciate it, and it's kind of needed to be done. That's it.
Agreed. And you don't have to be a select board member. You can be a town grand juror, or whatever you feel. You can be a town agent. There's other things you can do. Yes, sir. Other non-binding business. Oh, wait. You got the microphone in the back, Charlie. Hang on, okay?
I just want to support Laura's idea and also the idea of having town meeting at a different time. I think there's a lot of young families in Townsend that are not able to attend these meetings because it is during work hours. And those are exactly the people who are asking to step up right now, but those people aren't in this room because they can't be here right now. So I really think that's a great idea, and I'd love to help support make that happen in some way.
Yeah. Agreed, but also, as you noticed, and we noticed, the fact that there's no more school portion, look at how many people are here. The school portion really brought the younger people in, even though they were at work, and they brought kids in to run the microphone too. Now they're gone. So, but yes, that's something to be considered. Charlie.
Since it was already brought up when Emily spoke about the dam and in particular the pilot program, I would like to ask the select board to look into that. The pilot allotment that the town's received has not increased in X number of years. And when I explored it once before, I was told that Vermont always gets voted down because the members of the commission that decide the amount of money also are from the other states. And we get outvoted. I don't know if that's true or not, but the thing that always intrigued me about how to proceed with these sorts of things is we're not the only town affected by a Corps of Engineers project in New England. And our neighbors in Springfield must have similar issues. Surrey over in New Hampshire, the West River is not the only river in New England that silts out. And I think if perhaps there was some outreach to our brothers and sisters that are going through the same problem, that might have a greater impact than just Townsend trying to do it alone. I went to one of the meetings up at the dam that Emily was at, and all the officials were there from Massachusetts, and it's federal property, and they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, and then hope you go away. But I think if we were a little bit more proactive, and perhaps even using the media to promote, if you show, I think Ken pointed out, if you take one of the brochures that was published in the 1960s and 70s, you can't do any of those things that brochure advertised, and yet that's what was promoted as a benefit to the project. And the payment in lieu of taxes also affects the state park issue as well. So we do have influence with the state legislature there. We should be getting more money to help offset the loss of property tax revenue.
Good luck getting more money. Thank you. I have two things written down on my paper. I don't want to muck up this thing, but fire department feasibility update study. Anybody? Yep, wait, Glenn, down over here with the microphone. Sorry, that was, and then I also have a little bit of discussion. The select board wants to talk about the mailing, the town report mailing. So we'll do this first, and that, and others as well. Okay. About the fire department.
So, let me, on behalf of the Townshend Fire Department and the feasibility study for a new station built in Cat Meadow. We've been meeting for at least a year now. Also members of the public have joined the committee. And we believe we have a conceptual design for it. And we're still working out final details with the engineering firm. Once that's complete and we have a cost estimation of the project, then we'll approach the select board with the findings.
Thank you. Maybe we can save money on buying fire trucks after that, because you won't hit the roof. Okay. Thank you. Do you guys want to speak about the mailing?
Sure. So,
There we go. Over the years, we have mailed out a town report to every household. It is expensive. It is laborious. So we were thinking about making the town report available at town hall, maybe another place or two where you could pick one up rather than spending the money on postage and labeling and moving them all around. And we were just curious if there was a strong feeling by the voters one way or the other.
Okay, so let's just take a straw poll to begin with. Okay, what the select board is saying to save money, not to mail the town report, but leave them laying around outside and you pick them up. What's everybody's feeling? In favor of continuing mailing? Hands continuing mailing? And this is just a straw poll, so they get an idea for next year. And then, thank you. And then what about stopping mailing and just picking it up? Okay, thank you.
You gotta kind of figure that not everybody has access to being in town and here. I mean, certain people almost be request if you send out something that townspeople request whether or not I'm able to pick them up or whether I really want to mail it to me, to have that, full count and maybe reduce your mailing.
So what he said is that some people are not around to pick it up. So maybe the option is to, if you want to request a mailing, then you can request a mailing, and then if not, then you pick it up. Oh boy, did I just open a can of worms? Okay. There's too many variables. Yes, sir. Quickly, yeah.
Well, what would be the savings most?
Good question.
If it's only.
Well, actually, that's going to be what? Roughly. It's in the town report. How much that, I don't know where it is, what page long. Anybody have an estimate? I don't know where it is, but it's in here. Okay, fourth page, just real quick. Yes, right there. Right there.
It would certainly help for one household not to get 4 reports.
Okay, but if there's 4 people living there, that's what's happening, but you're right, I agree. Yes, Dave? No. No?
I don't get one.
It's roughly around $700 or $800, just for the postage.
There are other options for mailing. In the past, we've done it mailing, I believe, to the grand list, just the mailing, which is or was it the voter checklist? I don't remember which the mailing was done to. We also have the option of mailing it to local postal customers, which means that all of the 600 postal customers get whatever is sent, and there's no need for labeling that way. It also makes sure that there are no duplicates per household. And it's also, I think, a penny cheaper per mailing.
Great. Loud. Somebody on the microphone?
I like the microphone.
Okay. Here you go. This is good. This is good. Just keep spouting ideas because they're listening and then they'll come up with stuff. So that was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good, yeah.
Can I talk now?
Please.
Okay. In terms of households getting 4 copies, this works from the voter checklist. We who perform the duty of getting it ready to mail have to go through these labels by hand. So if you got 4 copies, it's because we didn't catch it. And believe me, it's not easy to catch. When you got a whole list of all the people on the voter checklist, it's not easy to catch it. We tried to send out only 1 copy per household. Now I gotta remember what I was also gonna talk to. Just senior moment here.
Wait, on this topic or previous topic?
Same topic, same topic. It was basically had to do with the town report. Oh yeah, in terms of mailing them to people in general, part of the issue is how many come back to us. This is particularly true with people who are registered to vote and people who are part-time residents. These cannot be forwarded. So I can't remember, how many did we get back this year, do you remember? Yeah, at least a full box of them came back as undeliverable. So sometimes this is a tiny little error in the checklist, and sometimes it's just the fact that we don't have everything we need to do to send them out, and sending them out just to have them returned is an additional expense. So the idea is to cut all of this out, let people know they're there, and yeah, perhaps if somebody wanted to mail it to them, they could notify the town clerk. But believe me, going through the voter checklist and trying to get rid of duplicates is no fun.
Is this all about the town, or is it that idea? Okay. Cynthia, your hands up? No?
One other option you haven't mentioned is digitizing it as you did it and send it out to those people who can receive it that way. Not only saves on the postage, it saves on the paper. You can save it and keep it.
So you shouldn't have back. What you said was you could digitize it and send it that way, digitally. And I see in the back all the young people clapping and all the front people here going, digital what? So anyway, understood Cynthia, yes. Right there, yes.
I would like the quality of the information presented in the town report. We brought up these levels that have been done earlier, where there was no proofreading, there was nobody watching it. It's no comments. It was not. If you just review back a couple of years ago and see all the things that just weren't there, for everybody to understand what was in the report.
You were looking for volunteers.
I was gonna say, we used to have auditors that put that all together, but.
We had, my first years on the board, there was a committee that put the report together and gave it to the select board. We proofed it, and then we took bids and they sent it off and took care of the whole thing. And that stopped last year. I did it by myself. This year, Kathy and Carla did it because we no longer have a committee to do it. So if anyone wants to reform that committee, we'd be happy to accept that.
Yeah, the problem with that is thankless job. You'll spend hours and hours putting that book together, and I see about 100 people out here that'll tear it apart no matter how hard you work on it. So it's a thankless job. That's all. It's tough. It's tough. I got 2 right here. You can battle it out. Rick goes first.
Who gets the first?
Ladies first.
Long ago, when I was an auditor, one of the other auditors suggested that we send out a postcard to everybody we could think of. And if you want the town report mailed to you, you mail the postcard back. If you want it emailed, send your email back. It would cut down on a lot of stuff. And I have done the town report a number of times, and there is a way for you to get a message to me very easily. And I would be willing to be on the town report committee.
Committee 1. Thank you. Right behind you.
Cindy, you up for it with me?
Oh, challenge accepted? It's not moving.
My turn. The town report is indeed online. It was online a full week before the printed version was available. Town reports dating back at least, I think, 10 years are available online. The only thing is, the online site is not an official Townsend website. Therefore, I can't tell you where to go look for it. But if you do a search for Townsend, Vermont, likely is the site is going to come up, and all those town reports are there under a category called Town Reports. Okay?
Thank you.
Mark? Is there also a way from the website to sign up for your mailing list?
If they want, they just have to directly email.
Okay. So on that website, there is a way to email Rick to be added to his distribution list where you can get communications about what is coming up and going on.
Yeah, but also this town report has to be in the voters' hands so many days before a town meeting.
It has to be available.
Okay, I lost track. We're still on the town report mailing? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there a reason why there isn't an official town website, or just that nobody has volunteered to do it?
Right?
No, that's a complicated.
That's a complicated answer, but it's a reality thing. Yes, and that's why it's an unofficial Townsend.
Do other towns have town websites?
No.
Yes.
Yes,
They do.
Hundreds.
Some do, some don't though, because there's a.
Probably not a complicated
Yeah,
Okay. You can request that the Townsend Select Board develop a website. However, back in 2014, they decided that there was no longer going to be a town website because the state made you liable if you didn't get things posted online within 5 days. That's just one of the issues. Basically what it is, especially in a town like this, where most of the people in charge of government have a few years on them, it was going to be costly to maintain, You are gonna have to be really, really careful to make sure information got out within the allotted legal time. And because otherwise, you're just opening the town up to a lawsuit. So based on circumstances, the town decided to drop their website to keep themselves from getting in a position where they got reported to the Secretary of State and taken to court or something like this. So, you know, it's a complicated issue, and it was basically because of liability. And again, this town would probably have to hire somebody in order to take care of one. Other towns do have them. Other towns also have what those of us who are doing it call bootleg sites. Vernon, for example, has a bootleg site. Wardsboro has a bootleg site. Townsend has a bootleg site. And there are other towns within the state who do the same thing. But it really is more than anything a liability issue.
Speaking to the liability issue, the open meeting laws apply whether you have a website or not. You are required to post agendas and minutes of any select board or town committee. So the liability is there whether it's posted online or not. It is more visible and easier to check whether it was online posting versus posted at 3 spots in town, being the town clerk's office and 2 other locations. So it's all how you want to do it.
Motion to adjourn. No, not yet. No, I'll let you do it in a second. I got just two quick things I want to say. You good? Anybody else? Oh. No? Okay. So just real quick, lunch downstairs we're paying for it. It's being catered by Riverbend, but it's your taxpayer dollars. So although we're probably going to adjourn right now before lunch, please hang out and eat your food. What?
There's a donation.
Oh yes, and there's a donation bucket down there to try to recollect the money for the food that you paid for. Okay? And then the last thing I just want to say is that there is an election going on downstairs. So please vote. Don't care who you vote for, but everybody should vote. So please stop by downstairs and vote. Any other business to come before the meeting? Oh, you took away his thunder, man. Motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. See you next year. Thank you very much. Great job, everybody.